Not to spoil the best part of the video straight away, but Fast and Furious Supercharged broke down on me and it made my trip on the first day.
I got that all on footage. Yeah! Yeah!
The Universal theme parks hold a lot of love in my heart. My first trip was back in 2005, so there is for sure some nostalgia there for certain elements of the park. And I have indeed been able to revisit the parks over the years, as well as other theme parks and other tourist trap places in Orlando, that of which I have to thank my father for. If it weren't for him, I'd never have discovered this weird love for theme parks that I have developed over the years, that of which has grown even more after discovering theme park videos online. And there are so many great videos and channels out there, here are just a few on screen. Today I wanted to take my, what I believe to be, unique style of production and create a type of video that I love to watch myself. A person with good editing, in my opinion I hope so, it's what I do for a living, talking for at least an hour plus about something they are truly passionate about. So, please, join me today as I review Universal Studios Orlando. And if you enjoy this kind of thing, please do say, as I want to review the rest of the theme parks I visited during my week trip to the States recently. Plus, it'd be nice to talk to someone about theme parks besides my missus, who is probably at this point tired of hearing my shit. Oh, one thing before we jump in, I actually kept all of the park maps from previous visits, so I thought, why don't we take a walk around the park and review what is there now, but we could also review what was there in the past on my previous visits. We could see what replaced an attraction, and if it was the right thing to do or not. Anyways, if you'll excuse me, I have to actually go on this trip. I'm back. Universal Studios Florida first opened with the gimmick of riding the movies, but now has expanded to not just riding movies, but also TV shows and my nightmares. The themes felt a bit mismatched as I explored the park. Some transitions felt rather lacking, while some transitions were sublime, but we'll get there when we get there. Just gonna remove this, since I want this area to my side to be where I put videos and stuff. Before the park itself, we have accommodation, getting there, and CityWalk. Yes, we're going to talk about all of the boring stuff as well. It's that kind of video. So I took a free shuttle bus from a partner resort, that resort being the Rosen Inn International. It's not a bad hotel at all in my eyes. However, their last bus was a few hours before closing, and this was on a quiet weekday. But luckily the Lynx buses were not too bad and were only a couple of bucks each way. So if you wanted to stay longer than your hotel's shuttle bus allowed, then that is a good option. Uber and Lyft are options too, but that quickly eats at your spending money. Trust me. Another option regarding transportation is staying at a Universal Partner Hotel, which gives you various benefits. I'll link below to a great video that discusses your options there, but depending on the quality of the hotel, you can either get a free shuttle bus to the parks, a water taxi which looks pretty freaking rad, or you could literally walk to the parks if you go for one of the big boy hotels. Plus there are perks and deals, such as Universal's pretty pricey Skip the Line Express pass, gift cards, and crap like that. If I were to do this trip again, I'd have probably stayed at a Universal hotel for the days I was at the Universal Resort, just to make my day a bit easier. Plus, the Express Pass, depending on when you come, is very much worth it. But anyways, last port of call, of course, is you could be driving there via a rental car or your own car. You park in a parking complex shared by all three of the parks in the resort. Be wary of that. And you do have to pay. Not only that, there are 5 different types of parking. Honestly, it just seems like a pain in the ass to me. But once again, there is a link below regarding parking if that is an issue that you're going to have to face. Also, they are named after characters, and seeing those signs took me back to being 8 years old again. Weirdly nostalgic. Right, you are there, but not yet. We have to go through security. I saw a few reviewers and streamers and content creators getting up in arms about this process, about how parks like Disney did it better. But I don't know what they were smoking. Both of the parks had airport-like security. Did I mind? Not really, no. But coming at a busy time, I can imagine going through this airport-like security would piss me right off. Get through that, get patted down by Slip and Jimmy, and you are off to CityWalk. The walk is actually quite cool, as you see buildings loom in the distance as you fast walk on the People Mover walkway. As you get to the end, you'll notice a golf course, which I'm pretty sure I have never seen anyone actually use, but from vlogs, it seems pretty fun. Above that, there's a wide as hell building sporting logos of the food and shopping available at CityWalk. But also for some reason, areas at the parks, such as the Harry Potter's Hogsmeade. I'm not sure what's going on there, but whatever. You'll then look down to see a recently updated Welcome to Universal sign. I probably prefer the older design because I am more accustomed to it, but then again, new and shiny is new and shiny. I won't bore you with every shop that's in CityWalk, but the feeling you get as you walk down is that even on a slow day, the area is bustling with life. And I felt that at all times when I was there. Be that in the Bubba Gump shrimp restaurant, the Billabong store I see loads of people do the photo op for but never actually buy shit from, and the Universal stores. Not the stands though. Those are really strange to me. Yeah, there's a bunch of like these unmarked stands dotted around not just CityWalk but also the theme parks themselves. And they'll sell like the most random crap. A few examples were anime merch like Demon Slayer, One Piece and Naruto. I didn't notice that until later in the day, and I was so confused as to why I kept seeing so many Naruto shirts. In Islands of Adventure, a theme park next door, there was one cart selling this really tacky jewellery, and also those caricature drawings. There was also one in Universal Studios, which people, who does that? I am not knocking the artists in any way, but I have never had the desire on like the one day I am in a place like this to sit down for an extended length of time to get myself drawn in that style. Probably just me though. Anyways, a few stores I wanted to mention were, to begin with, Voodoo Donuts. It had a very cool looking exterior with this throne you could take a photo on, and the donuts weren't actually that badly priced, along with having some wickedly cool designs. But I decided not to go for one, as I wanted to get my sweet treats elsewhere during my trip. But Voodoo Donuts does look cool, as did the shop on the inside and their merchandise, because every dang store needs merchandise it seems. But maybe next time. I know it is not exclusive to Universal, as I saw one in San Antonio on this trip as well, but this store did look a lot cooler. Panda Express sadly does not have any merchandise, but wow, if this was in the UK, I would be there a lot. I can't lie, the Universal escape rooms looks interesting. I've heard good things about the Back to the Future campaign in particular. And finally, yes, I didn't get to do that much, the Universal Legacy store, which was a pretty cool store to walk through. There's also a Universal Contemporary store across from it, but that's basically just a hub for shit you could buy around the parks anyway. This store was dedicated to selling stuff from rides past, along with exhibiting props from defunct rides at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. Seeing this piggy prison from Shrek 4D was pretty cool for me, and I actually did grab something from the shop, this shirt that I showed off earlier. Although I grabbed a kid's shirt for $23, because I thought, you know what, that's a good price. I'll buy a shirt for that. Only then to find out that it was a kid shirt, and the adult shirt was actually $30, and that's before tax because America is dumb. So I ended up buying it for like $35. I had a minor heart attack at that price, but I was in too deep at that point, and I had a buster catch when I bought the shirt. Just add tax to the price, please, America. It makes life so much easier. Okay, Universal Studios Florida. As you reach the end of the straight path from which you entered CityWalk through, you can go left or right to Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios Florida, respectively. I went to Islands of Adventure first, so I have no idea why I'm covering this theme park first, but we move. And as you walk over a bridge, you are greeted with some banners advertising what's inside the parks. There's the glorious spinning Universal Globe 2, which has become an attraction in and of itself to take photos with. For good reason, I would argue. Shit looks cool.
Come on, any moment now. No, fuck that, I got places to be.
And then the tall archway, beckoning you in to experience movies, TV shows, and your nightmares in real life. There are stands like the guest services, an entry to the VIP area, a place to buy your tickets, which... don't do that. Do your research and see if you can get a deal. I went in a quieter period and I got a 2 days plus 2 days free deal. And of course there is the entrance. The entrance really is nothing special, it's just some gates. But the staff get through people's tickets very quickly. Your park tickets are linked to your fingerprint when you scan in, so remember which one you used, and if you use someone else's, be sure to have it ready. I keep spares in my wallet. Once you're in the door, be sure to pick up a map. I will say, the image quality of these maps really has dropped over the years. The Disney ones at least still have the front image looking nice, but Universal's maps look kinda butt quality wise. However, I'm assuming that they want you to use the battery destroying Universal app, bring a portable charger, please, you'll thank yourself later, and hey, at least they still do maps. When I was watching vlogs in preparation for the trip, I was noticing they didn't have any at the time, so I am grateful that they are still there. Sadly, unlike times of past, these maps are not for each of the parks individually, but a 2-in-1, which... I mean, I am sad that they're not separate, but I doubt anyone else gives a flying fuck apart from me. The walk-in is nice. Staff members, for some reason, clap you as you walk in as a form of welcoming you. As a cynical British cunt, this did nothing for me. There's a pretty nice Universal merch store with a mural on top that seemed very out of place to your left, and on your right there's a taxi with a driver, who may appear sometimes, and an ABC themed restaurant, and a wait time screen. Just like any theme park, keep an eye out for these throughout the park to get ride time updates. But it's nice to see one of those as soon as you walk in, so you have an idea right away of what rides have the longest wait times. These rides include Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem, which normally gets quite long lines, in my opinion because it's at the front of the park. But that does mean lines quiet down as the day goes on. I actually did it at night time. Now, I never got to ride the first ride in this location, one themed to Hanna-Barbera cartoons, as I wasn't bloody alive yet, Grandpa. But I did get to go on the first replacement, Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast. As a kid, I frickin' loved it. And even today, although I can't ride the ride, I enjoy the concept of it a lot. In this ride, we basically got to go through the hotness of Nicktoons in the mid-2000s. You can ride through it a few times and catch everything reference-wise that they wanted you to see, but it was a fun enough time of, oh, I know that show! The ride system and experience otherwise is super basic. You're watching a 3D movie and the screen moves around a bit. The ride system itself, a big movie theatre with said moving chairs, was made back when the park first opened. This ride system is still being used today, and weirdly enough, it's actually a bit gimped. So in Minion Mayhem, the 3D element was actually removed, which baffles me to no end. And what is worse, this ride doesn't force you to do the chicken dance like Jimmy Neutron's did. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The queue for Despicable Me Minion Mayhem is very generic in design. There's some banana trees planted somewhere in the queue, by the way, banana. And the ride videos above you playing on screens in the queue give the basic spiel of the story to come, as well as repurposing footage from previous Minion content to craft questions to answer in the line about what a Minion should do. One note here. I noticed times where the editor obviously had to slow down footage to fill time between shots. I'll see if I can find any shots of this, but it was very obvious to me, and I'm not complaining, actually I'm relating. I've had to do this in the past with some clients where all I had to work off of was just a short trailer or even just still images, so I can relate. Before we enter the first pre-show, you can actually split off to sit in a non-moving seat if you need that. Not mocking that, I was about to say disability is a great thing, not accessibility. Keep that in. Before we enter the first pre-show, you can actually split off to sit in a non-moving seat if you need that. Not mocking that, great to see accessibility in theme parks. Once we exit the Orlando heat, or in my case, heaven, we are in a cute, somewhat recreation of Gru's living room, if my knowledge of the movie is correct. I don't really care if it's wrong. Then finally, one more pre-show room, where Gru gives us the plot. We are Minion recruits, who are going to be turned into minions through a ray. Banana. But at the same time, it is the anniversary of Gru adopting the 3 Gras. That's terrible. And they are sad that Gru seems to have not remembered or care that today is the special day. There are a few notable moments here for sure. I actually really like Gru as a character, so his little monologue before the girls come in is pretty fun. There's an appearance of the fart gun from the movies, which I wonder if anyone has discovered that they had a fart fetish from this moment. And there's a bit where we get scanned for germs, only to have a random assortment of people be picked from the crowd to be shown on TV. It is kind of cute, that idea. I like that, I can't lie. We are then moved into the large theatre with, sadly, no more 3D. If you were in my group, then you'd also have to wait for ages as some people just would not sit the fuck down. And the ride begins after you're forced against your will to say... banana. We get turned into minions, and then begin to run an assault course. It was very satisfying jumping on some minions' heads, Goomba style. We then get hit by a laser, which I would have assumed meant we have failed, but plot armor prevails, and we continue. The minions make Naruto proud, before falling, and then hijinks ensue. We get a moment of Gru having mental strength, and a cute reveal of Gru remembering the girl's adoption anniversary. All is well until we are then hit with the Minion Ray, we grow back, and game over.
Oh man, they're human again! Bring in the next group!
I will say, although the story and the visuals were nothing special to me, I do like how abrupt that ending is. You get turned back, Gru comments, and then slam! Move on, we have other guests waiting in the wings. The simulator is a great, my first ride kind of thing. Even more so with the stationary seats you can use if you don't want to feel the rather tame movements. There are some 4D-esque effects, like wind blowing on you at points, but nothing that would make a very young child cry, I would argue. So, for its target audience, Minion Mayhem is a good ride. For everyone else, it's worth a shot once, I would say, but it's nothing special. Considering the 3D is MIA now from this ride, you'd have the same experience, if not better, watching this ride online via a walkthrough. Added points for immersion if you watch it in VR, if you're so inclined.
Uh-oh, we have a problem. It appears that some of you have not showered in like a week. Gross! Not naming names, but it's those guys! Lucky for you, I'm in a bit of a time crunch and I'm feeling generous.
After exiting the dance party, look at me go, we are faced with the old Shrek 4D building. I miss it in a way, but also don't, as you can basically get the same experience at home watching the short film that used to play here on Netflix. I also remember you being able to rent Shrek 4D's film from Blockbuster as Shrek 3D, with those crappy 3D glasses. I do miss the pre-show though. Anywho, very shortly to your left, after exiting Minion Mayhem, you'll be greeted with a rather open area, where you can sit and rest if you wish. In front of this open space is a rather large stage, which houses musical acts during events. At the time I wrote this part, Mardi Gras was going on, with acts playing free of charge on top of your day ticket. Which is cool, although the park would have been rammed that day. Personally, I would have just shown up for the show I was interested in, and then leave. The crowds would have been mental that day. But to the left of the stage will be our next stop on this journey, Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. Visually, before even stepping into the ride, it looks fucking cool, doesn't it? This vertical hill is so intimidating, and it's almost beckoning you in to try and ride it, you pussy. Around the nearby area, you can also see parts of the ride above you and stand underneath it. Very cool for a video or photo opportunity. Although I wouldn't recommend going there, as this small little area where you can see the ride going through a cutout building also houses a weird looking facade, as well as a building that is not being hidden well at all. I remember going to the loo in the NBC toilets nearby. Shout out to that loo, The Roots were playing in it, very nice. I walk out, look to my right, and I was so confused at what I was seeing. My audio note at the time is proof of my confusion.
I just noticed near Rip Ride Rockit, I got a photo of it. There's a theatrical and television production facility area, and that's closed off. And like in repair or disrepair. It's very interesting actually seeing that. So maybe I should research what that is and the history of it.
This ride is going to be the first of many, where you have to put your crap in a locker. No loose articles. Although you're allowed glasses, which I found very weird. I had to catch a woman's pair on a ride during this trip due to that. I know, I'm a hero. As well as going through a metal detector. To use these lockers, you need your park ticket, but since mine and many others are now digital, you can ask a team member for a locker ticket. Here's mine on screen. And if you lose that, or you did what I did and left my locker ticket in my locker once, just say to the staff member, "Yo, I was an idiot, I'm so sorry, please accept my apology." And they'll open it up for you, while laughing at your misfortune, or while being annoyed that this is the 5th time in 10 minutes this has happened to someone. Probably that. This ride's theming is terrible. As you walk through the line, it is extremely boring to look at, with all the pre-ride videos having this really nasty nutshack looking ass style, with very little to say, but they say a lot. I used the single rider line late at night, which, by the way, this ride does look very cool at night. And I was only in the line for about 5 minutes, but the amount of times I heard the pre-ride 30-second spiel, well, you can do some maths and work that out, but the lack of variety got on my tits. There's a great video by Expedition Theme Park that covers the history of this ride, which I recommend as the marketing done for this ride was kinda funny. The gimmick of this ride is that you are starring in your own music video, which is fine enough, as the tech for the time was pretty cool to be honest. You're on a constantly moving system with this ride. Once the ride ends, it slows down, I'm assuming to recharge the batteries, while it allows people to unload and let you hop in. The seat is fine enough to sit in, but the headrest was hard as heck, offering next to no support for my feeble neck. Although the restraint was comfy enough. The gimmick, as mentioned, is that you are starring in a music video. So what do you need? Music and video. The latter is recorded via a low-quality camera nowadays on the lap restraint. The former is able to be picked from a little screen in front of you. The music selection is big enough and includes secret tracks too, so you can find something that works to your taste to make the ride feel cool. Fun fact, I have a DVD from when I rode this back in 2018, I think it was. And yes, the song I picked was there on the DVD, which is awesome. But the quality was ass. It was on a DVD after all, and I doubt the quality production of said DVDs, since they had to be made very fast as the customer wants to get on with their day. As a video editor, I dare to think of the encoding and exporting settings used here. A funny memory I have from this ride's DVD too is that I was like, woo, yeah, while the, I assume, about 10-year-old girl next to me was, whatever. Wait, now that I think about it, the person to your side is also being filmed from memory, so I'm not a fan of that. Maybe it wasn't the ride restraint the camera was on. Editing me, could you have a look at that please? So, you're sitting on the ride, and this looming hill is in front of you. As you go up, since it is 90 degrees, it really does feel pretty freaky, and I love the climb every time you go up. While climbing, you can pick a song from the aforementioned screen, that of which is on screen right now to check out to see if there's one that you enjoy. Personally, I always pick the song Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, as it's a slapper of a track, and I couldn't think of many better tracks you could have while riding a frickin' roller coaster. I hope this gimmick of picking your ride music could be done again one day. But better. Rip Ride Rockit is a very rough ride nowadays. I rode it twice, and no matter what I did, I left the ride with a stonking headache. Which is a shame, as the actual layout of the ride is not that bad at all, really. Along with the fact that before every drop, the song drops too, which is so cool. Like the baseline bridge of Sabotage. You're approaching a drop, you're about to drop down, and as you do... Both times I was at the back of the ride, which makes it a bit rougher than it would have been if I was at the front, but both times I was actually fearful, right, that we weren't going to make it. It almost feels like the chain or whatever gets you up there gives up for a brief second. I didn't move, yet we were still facing 90 degrees. Holy crap, that was scary both times. But yeah, once again, I was so sad how rough Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit was, as visually, off the ride, it looks awesome, and the speed and the ride layout while riding is pretty good, including one very picturesque loop that swings you up, which was actually somewhat smooth, unlike the rest of the ride, ironically. I would not queue long for this ride, the most I'd do was like 15 minutes if I were you. There is re-ride appeal for sure, as you could try different tracks and find the perfect song. I think there was a Kanye West song, I think it was Stronger. That would have been very cool, and I do kind of wish I picked that once. But at the same time, I felt, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I kept picking the same song. But this ride really needs either a retracking or something to make it smoother. I imagine the Incredible Hulk coaster next door at Islands of Adventure was getting rough at one point, which is probably why they updated the track. This ride needs that. It's a headbanger and a half. After possibly suffering a concussion that would make a professional wrestler wince, we walk out past the aforementioned not well hidden building to the Jimmy Fallon ride. Or Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. Peep that terrible logo. Now, I was not exactly overjoyed the first time I rode this ride. But I was actually excited for this and Fast and Furious probably the most going into the park that day, as, I don't know about you, but I love Terrible. Before the ride, if you don't know, The Tonight Show is... what is the best way to describe it? Let me ask Google, I don't know how to describe it. Google, help.
The Tonight Show is an American late-night talk show that has aired on NBC since 1954.
Yeah, that works, cheers. Firstly, there are two entrances to the ride. There's a sign of the ride plastered on a unassuming building, and then an entrance below it. And from memory, when I first went on this ride in 2018, that was the entrance I went through, though of course I could be wrong. This entrance is for the virtual line and express pass only. No, the entrance for the ride for everyone else is actually further down the street, with the only signs of that being the entrance being a small screen showing the wait time, the ride vehicle test seat, a small sign, and a team member. I know that sounds like a lot, but when a theme park is really busy, you're probably not going to notice. Heck, I rode it on a quiet Wednesday, and I didn't notice it. I could be a moron, but that's for you to decide. In fact, I just watched Jimmy Fallon go through the ride for the first time on Universal's YouTube channel. There's proof there that it's always been like that. I am a moron. Speaking of, this was apparently Jimmy's initial idea. Editing me, find out if this is true, but if it's true, Though it was very, very, very cute seeing Jimmy Fallon talk to the late original host of The Tonight Show saying, "Look at it now." Very touching.
Steve, we have a ride. We have a ride. Look what you made. We have a ride at an amusement park at Universal Studios.
But yeah, I mentioned virtual lines. This was the first time I knew of a ride having this. I'll mention this for each review, I do, but a virtual line is when you can reserve a time to head to the ride via an app, and this can reduce wait times on a very, very busy ride. Let's just say it wasn't running that day. and I don't think I have seen it running anymore on busy days too. Though please let me know if it does still run. I don't want to fly to Orlando at peak times to find out, thank you. You enter through either of the doors, and after a little bit of walking, you enter a mini museum of the Tonight Show's past. So, late night talk shows are for sure a thing in the UK, but nowhere near the same kind of exposure, popularity that US TV seems to put on them, judging by the fact that there are so many late night shows from my uneducated eyes. The mini museum is very cool though. It's like getting a snapshot into every host time on the show, with memorable props and clips playing on a TV of some of their most memorable moments. Yeah, I dig it. I will always love the tiny Conan one. Shout out to Conan O'Brien. He's like the one American talk show host I can personally stand and very much enjoy actually. The interior looks really nice, I can't lie. It reminds me of like a really nice hotel lobby or something. I am sure it's being themed to something like 30 Rock or maybe what the actual NBC building looks like, but it's nice overall. From there, we enter a big waiting room. Now, in days past, and I'm assuming really busy days, you were actually given a card with a colour on it. You wait for that colour to be called, and then that would be your boarding group. I actually found mine in a memory box. Take a look. But what would you do to kill time while waiting? Well, there's actually a fair amount to do. I remember a cappella singers from the show coming out. There's games you can play. #the Panda, also from the show, comes out to say hello. He actually came out while I was walking to the ride, actually. I waved, he gave me a fist bump, and I have not washed this hand since after meeting such an American icon. Doesn't smell that bad, actually. So, much effort has gone into making sure that you are not bored as you wait. There's even USB plugs in the seats, so you can charge your phone. That's very cool. And I really admire the creativity to make your wait somewhat enjoyable. But for this ride? Really? This, of all of the rides, got this kind of treatment. That is mental to me. Also, watching the #the Panda shit back in the Jimmy Fallon first ride video, it wasn't funny. But don't forget, I'm a cynical Brit. Nothing is funny to me. Nothing. After a pre-show that stews my anger to the fact that a show like this has the roots on, and also laughing way too much at the fact that nobody claps when the applause sign came on screen, I was told to not film the pre-show by a US veteran. Of course, I respected his wishes, but considering I'm using some footage right now, didn't work very well, did it? Sorry. What is the plot of this ride? Well, we, the audience, hop in what is known as the Tonight Rider, and we race Jimmy through New York for the chance to win the Tonight Show Cup or some shit. The ride itself is a 3D motion simulator. The animation's fine, although things look a bit green screeny. For some reason, shots like the a cappella group in the subway and this ow bitch look really 2D and flat. Does anybody else who has ridden this ride think that too? I get that it's 3D, but that makes 2D objects just chroma keyed and plopped in look even more out of place. Something I remember even now was how bland this ride felt. Like, Minion Mayhem had more dynamic movement and was way more creative on how the vehicles you sat in moved around. A lot of the time, you could get the same effect by sitting in an office chair with the locks off and having someone push, pull and shake you. Actually, that'd probably be better. This ride is painfully unfunny to me, but what's worse than that is it's so boring. I already mentioned the word bland, but my god, I wish someone on the security camera was watching me ride this ride, as I must have had the funniest "dear god help" face possible. I cannot stress this enough, this is the worst ride at this park. There's a lot of memes and crap regarding Fast and Furious Supercharged as the worst ride at this park and possibly ever made, but this has to be up there. I have yet to ride something so painfully bland. I have memed on this throughout the years since my first ride, including taking this picture which I adore. But dear God, try and ride this once to say you've done it, but fuck me, don't do it again. I don't know about you, but nothing is worse to me in this world than something that is bland. Bland is way worse than something purely terrible. And Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon, is very, very bland. Cool thing though that I found out during my research before we move on though, if you are a wheelchair user, Universal built an ADA room where you can actually have your wheelchair strapped in and you can experience the ride as if you're riding the traditional ride vehicle. That is pretty freaking neat. There's also a waiting cage for service dogs. That's rad too. Ride still sucks though.
Well, that was so much fun. Come back and race me anytime. Have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Is it hot, Wayne? It's hot, right? Can we do that one more time? That was fun.
We exit through an NBC gift shop. Luckily, my wallet was in my bag, and I'm a lazy man, otherwise I'd have bought out the entire store. As we exit, to our left, you'll be able to see the outside of the previous location for the tribute store. I was hoping I'd get to see this in person after watching so many videos online about how surprisingly good these tribute stores are to be in. They'd have themes like Mardi Gras, Halloween, and Christmas. And apparently, they were wonderfully themed. Sadly, the location had moved at the time of my visit, and although the sign of the new location was up, it opened up literally the week after I went to Universal. That right there is a bruh moment. But hide those sad faces, my pitiful sorrow, dear viewer. Please hide it, it's really creeping me out. As in front of us, we have the wicked-looking theatre facade housing Revenge of the Mummy, my childhood favourite. Interesting fact, there used to be a ride in this building called Confrontation, based on King Kong, and there was a fire sadly, which took it away from us. So Universal wanted to reuse the building for something else, which gave us this ride. There are also nods to Confrontation, such as a golden King Kong statue in the second scene, but the interesting thing is that some of the ride was actually built into the building, that ride being Confrontation. I'll see if I can find some images of it, but I thought that was pretty cool, that a bit of theme park history wasn't actually taken away from us, because they couldn't, but it's actually still there. I don't know. I find it cool. But I actually had some troubles with this ride. It was closed for maintenance in 2022 for quite a long time, and when I booked this trip, I was really worried I wasn't going to be able to get to ride it. So I rock up on my first day of the trip and it was closed. So I tried again the next day. I book it to the ride as a member of staff said it was opened and...
Turns out Mummy's not open.
Yeah. So I tried again on my last day. I walk in and...
Right, moment of truth, is the Mummy open? Yes! It looks packed, but fuck it.
I love the concept of this ride so much. As you walk in through the queue, you see props and set items from the shooting of the Mummy films, with cast and crew on screens describing their time shooting the films, including Brendan Fraser asking runner Reggie for a coffee. But as the surprisingly long pre-ride video plays, seriously, it's about 10 minutes, this puts Rip Ride Rockit to shame, you are told that the Curse of the Mummy, Imhotep, is actually real, though Mr. Fraser doesn't believe it. Weird things were happening during their shoot, which, watching this pre-show, it's actually a very smart way of using behind-the-scenes footage. Brendan takes an amulet off the runner to show to the camera, but it's not a big deal, as the guy here says... After the first section, the queue becomes eerily dark as you walk into what looks like an actual tomb, although there are signs saying that this is a set for the films. To be honest, I did single rider every time, so I missed a lot of this, so all of this is coming from memory. The main thing I remember in the queue was seeing a very old video playing on loop, warning you of some of the safety stuff, but that's not fun to talk about, though I just did. This ride is a roller coaster that I mentioned already was closed in 2022 for some maintenance, and I will mention anything new as we go. But as we begin, we find Reggie, all wrapped up in a crap cosplay, warning us that the Curse of the Mummy is real. And then Imhotep himself appears, silencing him with powers I wish I could use on my puppy. He's asleep right now, so I guess my powers actually worked. cool. And he does his best Shang Tsung impression, going on about how he will rule with our souls. On our right appears some really nice lighting effects that seem updated to me, before facing Imhotep in a big ominous room. Some mummies jump scare us and we move on. There's this effect with a door looking like it's going to close on us, but every time I've ever ridden this ride, it doesn't look very convincing. A little backwards launch occurs, before we get to what I am now coining the Aku Aku form of Imhotep. This was for sure updated. The animation here was high quality, had a good frame rate, and was very smooth. Imhotep tries to eat us with a pretty fast and fun launch, but we manage to escape thanks to some fast moving roller coaster fun in the dark. Sometimes I am not a fan of throwing my arms up, but this is a great case. It's not too rough, so even though you're in the dark, you shouldn't get any whiplash. Unlike a certain galactic mountain at a magic kingdom. Except we don't escape, in what I believe is now still a great fake out with some impressive fire effects. Shit really did feel hot in that room. A small drop then occurs as we try to escape. This mofo nearly gets us, but the Magi saves us. We are then greeted by Brendan, who just wants his damn cup of coffee. I'm sorry for explaining this ride bit by bit, and probably butchering it, but it's a dang great ride. I am so happy that instead of bidding it off for a new IP, Universal decided to actually perform work on it to keep it running and smooth 20 years later. Fun fact, when I rode this ride back in 2018, there was a massive advert to the right of the pathway down to the gift shop, and on it was an advert for the Mummy 2017 Dark Universe film. I wonder how that went. But yes, please ride the Mummy if you're visiting the park. Then re-ride it again to pick up on any details you may have missed the first time. I have heard that there are other versions around the world and they aren't as good as this one, but I guess I'll have to be the judge of that one day.
Hope you enjoyed yourself. I would consider you a lot more if I had got my cup of coffee! Thank you. That was pretty cool.
There aren't any more attractions nearby, but we are faced with a lovely little walk, with many little things to do and eateries scattered about. There's an arcade, check out Guitar Hero and look for the name GH on Balls on Parade, by the way. So many places to eat, like I said. Finnegan's is a place I heard so much about, but theme park food doesn't really interest me. The Blues Brothers can drive down the road and perform on the streets. I remember noticing a film memorabilia store that I really should have gone into. The whole street, I believe, is themed to New York, which is... it's fine. I'd argue it's not that creative, but it's not bad. As you keep walking, you'll see a pretty nice little lagoon, which holds a show we can talk about at the end of the video. From there, we can go either left or right to get to our next attraction, that of which being either Fast and Furious Supercharged or Transformers, respectively. We'll skip Transformers for now, passing the Beat Builder show, which I don't think I've watched ever more than a minute of in my life. And then we get to... oh yes. Finally. Fast and Furious Supercharged has been on my list of must-dos ever since I dipped deep into the theme park fandom back in 2018. I had heard so much about this ride, knowing that it's based off a section of a tram tour at Universal Studios Hollywood. And I also know that people say that the best thing about this ride is the queue. I'll always remember seeing this show building on my trip in 2018, with it only being a month away from opening. I wondered what was to be and what was to come. Very quickly, I did go to one of the rides that was replaced here, called Disaster, a motion picture starring you or something. It's basically a ride where you get to be superimposed into a film and then get to experience some practical effects in person. I didn't write this in the script. I just remembered this now. Moving on. To begin, why the hell was the wait for this ride so high? I had heard so much bad stuff about it, but at one point it was pushing 90 minutes. I think I got a screenshot of that, or near enough that. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I did the single rider line for the first time I rode this ride. This does have a virtual line, by the way, too, if you ever need to use it on a busy day. And the single rider line is very plain. I should mention, I don't know if I have yet, when you do Express or Single Rider, you don't actually go through the normal queue. You either skip it altogether, or you get like a tiny snippet of what the queue is. For example, with The Mummy, you get the setup and the transition from set to spooky place, but you miss a lot of the key details that make the ride more fulfilling. With Rip Ride Rockit, it's just more stairs, got that ride, and Fast and Furious, it starts out good. Dom's iconic dodge is here to view within spitting distance. You're invited to check out the Universal app for things to do in line. I really wish I did that just to see what was even on the app. And then a massive hallway. There was a wall of keys at the end of the massive hallway, which gets mentioned in the normal queue. So that's nice. But yeah, I rocked up on my own, in my own line, ready to meet the family. We are stepping onto a big bus named the Party Bus, fitted with all of the neon your favourite French filmmaker could want. You drive off and... well, here is my instant reaction as I got off of the ride.
Yeah, I gotta ride that again. I need to see what was going on. That's something else. That is something else. That is something else. Oh my god.
I wanted to go through the real queue this time, take in as much as I could, as... man, I was lost for words. Ironically, we actually skipped part of the queue as it was pretty much a walk-on at that point. But yeah, it was an alright queue. Loads of cool cars if that's your thing, plenty to look at. Yeah, it's alright. Load up! Is on screens dotted around the line, something I didn't actually notice at the time, saying that he's got party buses lined up for us, for a party that'll be one for the history books. Sure. And that we should head into the break room. We enter said room of breaking, where we are greeted by one of two pre-shows. Okay. Let me begin. If you watch a ride through online now versus when this ride first opened, you will notice something. The tone of the team members with you in the room. They are there to communicate with actors on screen, who, by the way, just recorded shit on their phones. The thing is, the dialogue and the story overall is absolute pants. So if you write it today, the team members are just ripping into the footage. Basically playing it off as an in-joke.
The rides are ready to roll out and roll out in style.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get these people on their way. Send them over to the war room.
You got it, Tess.
The rides are ready to roll out and roll out in style.
Nice.
All right. I'll let Dom know. You guys have fun at the party.
Bye, Mia.
Bye, Mia. I love
All right,
you.
Pat.
Okay.
Mia, I think that's her name, you try and remember 5 Fast and Furious characters by name, says that Dom has won himself another car, and that this isn't the break room, but the family room. Cute. Load up! Joins the call to say the buses are ready and that we should move on to the next pre-show room. Now, shout out to the dude who I had next. He was great, playing to the room as well as the video. He gave me a few proper good laughs. Universal will give that man and everyone else a raise.
The FBI is about to raid your location.
What? Hold on. Man, they always ruining our fun.
It gets worse. They're leading Owen Shaw right to your door.
We go through more phone video calls, and the one and only Dominic Toretto via voice call informs us that the FBI and Owen Shaw, bad guy from Fast 7? Fast 8? One of them is on his way to the party. Turns out they tracked us down through our mobile phones. So Rock the Dwayne Johnson himself calls in and tells us to turn them off. We rock up once again to the party bus. This time I'll take you through what happens. And there's a surprise at the end that made this ride just... We drive off, and The Rock comes up and makes a 69 joke.
And as of 16.9 seconds ago, I'm the man in charge.
He mentions that he is now the man in charge, but who was in charge before? And you know what I just noticed as I write this section? This clip is taken directly from the other ride in Hollywood. Now, there's nothing wrong with reusing stuff, not at all. But that line works in the context of the tram tour. If you don't know, at the Hollywood Park, you can take a guided tour of screen-used sets and do some experiences like King Kong and the Fast and Furious thing. The Rock, in that case, is taking over the tour guide, if I remember rightly. So, who is he taking over from here? We are already a few seconds in and I already have questions. He says someone here is part of witness protection or something, and Owen Shaw wants them? Okay, sure. I've heard worse ride setups before. You drive through a garage with very cool looking cars, as for the third frickin' time you are told to turn off your phone. And on our right is... Oh dear. The FBI messes up the party, as Tyrese comes out to earn a paycheck. Dom comes up on a truck for some reason, The Rock comes up and makes a dick joke while smiling at us. Tyrese, or Roman, then takes a call, which gives us away. Then, for the fourth fucking time, you are told to shut off your phone. And what begins is 90 odd seconds of PS2 era graphics, blown up on 2 massive screens, and depending on where you sit, a terrible view. I was sat right at the back both times, and my view was god-awful. I was also sat, presumably by the jets that spray out the air and water, as I got a fair bit of water on me, as well as air blasted in my ears. This ride is fucking terrible, but unlike Jimmy's Fallon, which is painfully bland, there is so much to dissect and break down from this ride. This is truly a work of art to me. This is what people like me hunt for. The cream of the crop, the top tundra of turd, the almighty, the... so bad. It's good. Dom jumps off his car and becomes the size of a helicopter. Perfection. Everything on screen has motion smoothing on it, uncohesive storytelling and blocking, and I really cannot tell what the fuck is going on. The fact that we are in Orlando, yet we're in Hollywood now, the general terrible visuals, and remember that wind I mentioned? It'll be in your ears so much that you cannot hear crap. The fact that it ends pretty much as soon as it starts, the terrible ride or die line at the climax. And do you want to know what made this experience perfect for me? Pretty much the sole reason I wanted to make this video, besides talking to others who actually care about this weird hobby too. The ride broke down on me. And in the funniest way. I am so happy I got my phone out. So, on the second go-round, we drove into the pre-show like normal. But it was odd. There was no on-ride videos of The Rock making r/funny jokes. The Pepper's Ghost Effect dances weren't there. There was nothing. It was then I got out my phone, and from there I want the younger version of me to take it from here.
You can't see it, but oh my god, I think the ride's broken down, yes.
Are we just going to be here for the length of the ride?
Woo! No. Thank you, whoever that was. Thank you. Oh shit, we're moving, yes.
Attention party goers. As a reminder for everyone's safety, please remain fully seated at all times.
What?
This includes any children being in their own seat. Again, remain seated for your safety. Thank you.
Oh my god, yes. We just went through the whole ride and it didn't work. Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, yes. I got that all on footage. Yeah!
Please remain fully seated.
Yep. It didn't work. So I then went and spoke to someone who I won't play the audio of, as probably an invasion of privacy right there. But he basically said in his own way, shit happens. But I was having none of that. I'm British after all. So I spoke to the dude at the front of the ride. He really wasn't willing to budge, but a lovely older couple came up who were annual pass holders, and also complained. I was calm and nice. They weren't as kind or considerate. We managed to get a supervisor out, and I got a single-use express pass, that of which I used in Islands of Adventure next door. So be sure to subscribe for that park's video to see how I made use of this lovely gift from the family. Or not. totally up to you. This ride is something that has to be experienced. You are missing out if you don't ride Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal Studios Florida. The ride was perfect. I cannot wait to ride the other version one day and compare the two in a 4-hour video essay. Please, ride it for me. For family. After enjoying this work of art, we exit through the gift shop, and our next attraction takes us to jolly old London for one half of the Harry Potter worlds at the Universal Orlando Resort, with a recreation of King's Cross, the night bus from... can't remember, and there's a facade which is the entrance to Diagon Alley. What I found funny, right, was that people were queuing to take a photo outside of a London-esque door. But I can't really judge people, can I? I mean, both in 2018 and in 2013, I made piss jokes regarding this area.
It's Leicester Square. They even got the smell of piss. It's really authentic.
Since we're talking about King's Cross, let's talk about the Hogwarts Express next. A very cool feature of the Harry Potter world is that there is an actual train that you can take from Universal Studios Florida to the other park next door. Let me start with one thing. I live in the UK. Our rail system is crap. We always have delays and cancellations, staff are overworked and underpaid, and the prices just keep going up, up and up. But it is very common in the UK to take a train if you can and need to. So, to me, taking a train isn't very interesting. The King's Cross station is very cute as a British dude. It's pretty spot on in terms of visuals, with a pretty cool effect that emulates you going through a wall. Once you board and the train starts moving, you basically have a screen as your window, and the door you entered through is also a screen. You'll hear people come and go as if they were in the train with you, which is a very cool effect. Meanwhile, on the window screen, you leave London and approach Hogwarts. It's perfectly fine, a cute gimmick, and I did like the bits involving the Dementors a lot. My only real issue with it, and it's a small one, is that at one point you very, very obviously turn on the track, yet the screens don't account for it and just keeps moving as if you were going straight. It also had the same issue with Jimmy Fallon, where some shots looked very 2D, like Hagrid waving at you into the station. I remember that looking very odd and out of place. But it's immersive, minus the term, and it's a great like, oh shit, I'm going to Harry Potter World Part 2 kind of thing, you know? You could also, of course, walk to the other park to check it out, but this is cooler. Plus, full immersion and all that. One thing I have to note though, you need a park-to-park ticket to do this attraction, so be sure to have that. Also, don't ride it unless it is a walk-on. It is a themed train. Sure, it's unique, but don't queue 30 minutes like I did the day before at Islands of Adventure, when you could walk it in like half the time. In my defense, it said 10 minutes when I walked into the line, so I did feel kinda cheated there. Overall, cute gimmick, adds immersion, but really it is worth the extra money because you're off your feet for 10 minutes. Let's say we are returning into King's Cross. You come back out where you started, and to your left, above all the murmuring, you can hear the sound of bricks scraping and moving. You check it out, walking through the gap into the wall to witness Diagon Alley. The first time we walk in, it really is special, especially for me on this trip where my first reaction was at night, where the park was pretty much empty. The first impression is sublime, even when bustling with life. Pretty much every store you can see, you can walk into. There's the Gringotts Bank at the end of the street with a dragon on top, which, fun fact, blows fire. You'll know when it's about to happen sometime soon, because a bunch of people will be standing in the middle of the flippin' street to get a video of it on their phones. Although this area feels, and probably is, tiny, it is so jam-packed with things to do. I've read online that people can spend a whole day in here alone. To me, they're mental. I like attractions, but I can respect taking in every little detail, especially with your magical wand. Now, although I may laugh at the fact that you are paying about 10 times what I could for a Harry Potter shirt or scarf because we have a shed load of Harry Potter stuff in Primark in the UK, one unique piece of merch you can get here is an interactive wand. With this wand, in a bunch of windows dotted around Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade next door, are things you can wave your wand at, and the thing will react to your wand wave. I think there are other places you could do that besides windows, but that's what I saw people using their wands on. Sure, it's probably really basic NFC tech inside the wands, but when you're already fully immersed, I can see how cool or magical it could feel. There's a regular live music performance which is cool, a sit-down restaurant that serves British cuisine, dear God, and as mentioned, shed loads of shops. Most of these shops are heavily themed, selling either sweets, merch, or a combination of the two. There's a wand experience I didn't get to do, though I did do Ollivanders at the other park. Subscribe, yada yada yada. Themed toilets which I wish I used, and the main attraction in this land, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. To get right to the end, before even starting, this ride felt like the Universal of old that I could only somewhat experience in my first trip back in 2005. The old slogan of Universal Studios, and I think my retro shirt has it written on it as well, was Ride the Movies. I feel that this park has kind of lost that vibe, if you catch my drift. Sure, there are rides here based on IP, and you get to ride them, but you're not really stepping into the movies. Am I making any sense? What I'm trying to say is, there's nothing new being made that throws you into the movies whilst they are happening. Rides of old, like Back to the Future, took place in the continuity of the franchise. But when does my journey with the family take place in the Fast and Furious timeline? Anyways, this elaborate back and forth of mental gymnastics I'm trying to do right now is to set up the fact that Escape from Gringotts actually takes place during Deathly Hallows Part 1. There's a bit where the wizard threesome sneak into a bank to retrieve a key item to beat Voldemort, and we are going to be there while it is happening. Even as someone who doesn't really care much for the Potterverse, that is rather interesting. Even more interesting is the queue. After putting your crap in a locker and entering the exterior with a big boy dragon on top, we begin by going through a wicked recreation of the Gringotts Bank, with some very impressive animatronics of goblins? Is that what they're called? Am I going to get cancelled? No hate, by the way, for people who stop here to snap a picture. Shit's pretty. From there, you're put into a hallway that has the door effect that I mentioned on the Hogwarts Express, as well as some simple but cute newspapers, like from the films with moving images. After a pre-show we will talk about shortly, we are funneled into a faux lift, which looked pretty convincing, and I found it cool to look around and try and find little tidbits that I am sure some trivia channel has already mentioned. Sadly, the depths of Gringotts Bank ain't much to look at, so unlucky if you're standing here after leaving the lift and grabbing your 3D glasses? Yeah, this is a 3D roller coaster, and there's more of an emphasis on telling a story than thrills here. Saying that, the actual production design of the sets in the show scenes are pretty great, even though the screens are the main item of attention here. This is unlike most of the Universal screen-based rides, where there's only really a screen to look at and that's it. Looking at you, Kong. I'm watching this lights-on ride-through, and seeing the actual rails of the roller coaster was pretty cool. As you can see here, you can spin around so that you can view a much wider screen, move you to a new area, or spin out from being hit with a spell. Pretty nifty. Let's talk about the ride. We are here to take a tour of the Vault at Gringotts. One of the Weasley brothers, I forget which, will be coming along for the journey. As our journey begins, an alarm is set off. There's an imposter in Gringotts. There's an Among Us joke here I can make. And to that I say, he's looking a bit sus. Bellatrix, the bitch, walks in, hits us with a spell which holds us over a drop, and then down we go. After a bit of rollercoaster fun, the intruders show themselves. Hermione references Among Us.
They know we're imposters.
Then these guards pop up to spoil the fun. I have to comment on this. The way they threaten us is by spinning us away. If it was a swipe, a good slap, one that would remind me of childhood, I would not complain. But this looks like you're about to swing your younger sibling on a roundabout. Ready, set, go! And there's like next to no force behind it. A bit of a dud that show scene is in my eyes. Although the transition is cool, seeing a physical rail above you is pretty sick. A guard gets low blowed, we fall down, and the Weasley brothers saves us. I will say, Universal really have nailed the we are falling effect. Like on Spider-Man Islands of Adventure, this one here feels incredible. Unlike Stan and Randy Marsh, Harry and the crew caught a dragon, along with the Horcrux they came in to grab. Watch the movie if you don't get what I'm on about. It will only take you 905 minutes from the start to get to Deathly Hallows Part 1. Enjoy. And we are whisked away to safety. Except, nope. After a very impressive looking set transition that stops rather fluidly in front of a screen, Big Man Wiedemann pops out to say hello. They really did pull out all of the stops for this ride, huh? He tries to spook us, but the wizard threesome counter his fire with some more fire, then pull us to safety. I will say, on ride-throughs online, the effect of a screen door coming down to make a door for you to go through looks very obvious. But in person, nah, it's a good transition. One last bit of roller coaster fun, an ending screen, and we are done. Can I quickly just say, the soundtrack of Harry Potter, more often than not, is pretty dang great. It gives me chills sometimes. And for some reason, the sting that plays at the end of this ride is just sublime to me. Take a listen. My first ride made me think that this was a proof of concept for a ride in the future, as it's a 3D roller coaster, but there's not much coaster to be seen and felt here. But then on a re-ride, it hit me. This ride is surprisingly smooth, considering a lot of the thrilling coaster parts are in the dark, so your body isn't ready for the turn-off movement to come, which I have to commend the ride designers on. It's a really nice riding experience. And I actually enjoyed it more on my second go-around. If I had a third or fourth, I think I'd have enjoyed it even more. This is a nice innovation on the screen-based rides that Universal seems to love. I'm guessing they are just easier to maintain and cost less to produce and run compared to other attractions. But melding 3D, well, I guess 4D, I don't know, with a roller coaster is a fun idea. Being right in the heart of the movie and seeing another angle of something we saw on the big screen is cool too. I may not be a big Harry Potter fan, but I really enjoyed this attraction. After spending our life savings to buy a wand and a broomstick that I am sure you're going to struggle to get through UK customs with, we are leaving Diagon Alley, getting a photo of a door while exploring the barren area where Fear Factor Live used to be. I think this area nowadays is used for Halloween Horror Nights, more on that near the end. And next to that is the time capsule that is Men in Black Alien Attack. A name that is quite satisfying to say. It is a time capsule, not just because of the ride's look and feel, but also for the surrounding area. You see, while walking into the Men in Black area, the music choice was for sure interesting, with some fine choices such as The Offspring and flipping Ja Rule. I started laughing and had to get the camera out to document this fact.
Also, for some reason in the Men in Black section they're playing Ja Rule. All I think about you.
I'll always have memories of this ride, as I have multiple photos standing in front of this logo, including one with my granddad that I will always cherish and love. I also remember the pre-show of this ride. A member of the Men in Black, which is like a secret alien hunting maintaining organisation, if you haven't seen the film, would usher you into a fake lift that would take us down into the MIB base. Nowadays the door is just wide open, but what are you going to do? The queue is rather sterile, like the MIB colour palette. But there are some cool moments. Seeing these mofos in the coffee room was cool, although it's very ironic that they are situated next to the fingerprint removal room, as my view was smudged to all hell. There's a cool bit where you can look down into the main floor from the movies, which you can actually go down to if you request it and someone is available to take you down. Plus there's a wall of guns. Look at them. As for the ride itself, it's an on-rails light gun shooter. You're going through MIB training with a laser blaster before quickly being thrown right into the nest of aliens to shoot at. Some, such as ones in the window, are made of cardboard, but the rest are actual alien models, which is nice. As a kid, I loved this, as I loved light gun shooters like House of the Dead, so to have a ride like one of my favourite video games? Hell yeah. The main appeal here is not the ride itself, but the re-ride potential. You're gunning to try and get a good score. and I did do it a few times to see what I could do. Ironically, my first score was my best. People of the universe, is this score okay? Be sure to let me know. To be honest, I've not got much to say on this one. It's got its charm, I find it fun, but can see why someone would skip it if they only had one day in the park. There is single rider though, so hop in that, go through a pretty much plain white hallway, and get shooting. It's worth a try once. Best advice from me, hold down the trigger, don't aim down the sights like a real gun, but rather track your laser as it fires, and when a certain someone asks you to push a certain red button, try and be ready to do it earlier to get more points. I haven't mentioned gift shops much in this video as, well, it's a gift shop. You can guess what's in there. Merchandise related to the ride's IP. But Men in Black's was so funny. There was an arcade, anime merch, and I'm pretty sure I saw Marvel merchandise that was Disney owned. It did answer my internal question at the time of why I kept seeing Naruto and One Piece shirts everywhere. So that was nice. Although, dear God, I'm not paying theme park prices for anime merchandise. Not a chance. I think there was a few Men in Black shirts and stuff, but I think I just saw more generic film related stuff like knockoff Oscars and Golden Globes.
Not bad, slick.
After having our minds wiped by a 20-year younger Will Smith, our next attraction in our journey is the Simpsons Ride, and by extension, Springfield. The Simpsons Ride was a big deal for me as a kid, as this was the first time a property I really deeply cared about was getting a theme park attraction. I have so many memories of watching my pirated DVDs and listening to the commentaries every night, and generally just having my nighttime routine be surrounded by these yellow fucks. This love has only grown over the years, so to return to Springfield filled me with joy and fear. As I have grown older, the more cynical I have become. I can be a forgiving fella, but at the same time, I have paid a lot of money to be here, so, you know. Walking into Springfield fills me with joy every time. And if I may, I would like to go bit by bit here, since unlike other properties here, I can actually give you some pretty good deep insight and, oh yeah, I get that. After the sign, on our right we have a facade for the comic shop that comic book guy owns in the show. Sadly, it's not enterable, if that's a word, but at least it was closed for the Baimon Sci-Fi Con. Next we have Krusty Burger, which is actually a front for a food court. Although getting a full Krusty Burger would have been cool, it does just look like a normal fast food outlet in the show, so having a food court with a variety of eateries, all at least somewhat themed to someone or something from the show, like the Flying Dutchman, is a nice way to get more in, while probably saving on development costs. Did I eat here? Hell no, I ain't paying theme park prices for a Krusty Burger, which is literally just a burger and fries. I am cool. But I appreciate the variety. You can access the food court through Moe's as well. Yeah, Moe's Tavern is here. Sadly, without the dank. But there is a love tester, and you can get a Flaming Moe, which I'm pretty sure is just orange soda with like crushed ice or something at the bottom to give it a bubbly effect. I think Universal could have done an alcoholic Flaming Moe if they wanted to, and you really should, I think, Universal. That's money on the table you're just not getting. One mad thing that I did not notice until I watched vlogs to jog my memory for this video, there are plenty of pictures and cool murals dotted around the place, including this one here, which I missed, that had over 450 named characters on it. That is mad. It was cool to walk around Moe's and by extension the food court for sure, but in Moe's I did notice the pool table wasn't available to play. I don't know about the USA, but adding a pool table to a place of business in the UK for sure is going to be worth the overheads of getting it and maintaining it. Because people my age flock in droves to a table, putting their quid coins down ready for the next match. Although it is £1.50 now actually. Frickin' inflation. Opposite these stores, just as you enter Springfield, is a screen-used DeLorean and train from Back to the Future 3. Pretty cool. And a walk-around version of Doc will be here at times too. The previous ride here was Back to the Future. You can look at the ride's footage online. I don't have many memories of the ride, but I know people miss it, and the Simpsons Ride uses the same ride system. So it's still here in spirit. Next we got Bumblebee Man's Tacos. Of course I didn't eat there, but it's worth mentioning as the van is massive and it makes a slightly obnoxious sound that the staff members in and nearby must fucking hate. Moving on, we have a great photo opportunity with Police Chief Wiggum, as well as Big Man Lard, where you can buy a F-off massive donut to scare your doctor and ruin your blood sugar levels. Not only that, Jebediah Springfield is there to snap a pic with, and then you could wash down that donut with a Duff, if you so wish. I don't drink soda or alcohol, so moving on. Lastly, before we get to the main event, and also what brings the area down in my eyes, we have the Quickie Mart. Oh hell yes. Gift shops don't do much for me unless there's interest outside of buy stuff. Like the Legacy store on CityWalk. But it was for sure cool to see my favourite yellow peeps on a variety of tat. I considered buying a shirt, but I noticed it read Best Vacation Universal Studios, not exclusively Florida. So I'm curious if the other parks have the same shirt or not. Plus, no bought license plates. Boo earns. Outside of the store, there's some cool features too. How relevant. You can meet the Simpsons family out here as well as Sideshow Bob from memory. There's a photo op with Milhouse. 1 year he liked me, the next he ignored me. Twat. Finally, there's a phone that rings. Pick it up and you should be able to hear Simpsons characters on the other line. However, I tried various times on camera to do it, and every time it didn't work. It's a shame as I have never experienced that and probably never will.
Let's see if it works today. It just started ringing. It's ended now, but... Hello? No, don't mind. That doesn't work anymore, I don't think.
Right, Krusty Land. Firstly, there's a spinner ride that I never got to go on, but it looks fine, and hearing the aliens as I walk by is funny. Now, carnival games. I will mention these whenever I see them, including a certain Dinosaur Land over at Buena Vista Drive. But I feel these really lower the appeal of the land to me. Sure, winning some prizes is cool, but it's as common as breathing air that these things are either rigged or are a scam or just simply not worth the money. Plus, are they really making money? You're paying for the staff who probably would rather be working another stand around the park. I don't know, they just don't appeal to me, and I don't fully get them. It doesn't mean they're bad, but I think they're bad and a bit cheap. Even with the Simpsons signs on top of each little game, they're kind of cute. It's funny, I say all this considering 2 of the carnival stands when I was there were being covered up by construction. The iconic, to me, entrance of the Simpsons Ride, Krusty's face, of which you enter through his mouth to get into the line, was obstructed by these nasty walls, and it seems they have removed the little statue of the Simpsons family that used to be by the entrance. Why? I don't know. But hopefully by the time you're seeing this, it's all back to normal. Then we get to the queue. The first part, frankly, sucks. Sure, The Simpsons is playing at all times, aka My Kind of First Date, and there's exclusive shorts here, which I'd argue are worth looking up if you're a Simpsons fan. They always gave me a good chuckle. In the queue, we see a short of Doc from Back to the Future, giving a comical reason as to why the Simpsons ride is here now instead. And there's even funny banners to look at. But it's just a bunch of stairs. You can't get more bland than that. Luckily, as soon as we are allowed away from the sun, the queue just goes up a bunch in my estimates. So, the story of the ride is that Krusty Land has opened, and everyone is queuing to be the first on the big roller coaster. Meanwhile, Sideshow Bob, one of the main antagonists from the series, has escaped from jail. The Simpsons and us in the queue get selected to be the first, and off we go into the next pre-show room. On my last visit, I was the only person in this room, so I didn't get to take it all in, but luckily, I'd never forget my spirit animal. In this room, there are characters manning stalls. People like Patty and Selma, Groundskeeper Willie, and of course, Hans Moleman. I was a little sad I wasn't in here for more than 10 seconds, so when I got home, I watched clips of this section to fill my heart with Moleman joy. Anyways, next pre-show room, and in here it was so fun looking around and finding all the references and in-jokes that I could, including seeing Mr. Groening himself in one of the pictures. On the screen, there's a few cute jokes. We see a clip of Krusty taking us to the loading area, which is situated past a nuclear reactor. Grandpa can't come on the ride, so he stays behind to look after Maggie. After falling asleep, Maggie goes into the room. After a joke that still gets me today,
Now the last thing you'll ever see. A legally required safety.
we see the safety video for the ride, and damn, I love that Itchy and Scratchy can still push boundaries on, can we show this in front of kids? Shit's kind of fucked up, and I love it. Entering the ride vehicle, firstly I was alone in the ride, go me, but I also noticed that my loading area had a bit of damage on it. No idea how this happened, but it needed some TLC. Let's say it right away, this doesn't look the hottest nowadays. Or did it ever, really? But as for the content of the ride, yeah, it's cute. I actually kind of enjoy the show film. Shit goes wrong right away as we are treated to a bunch of show scenes, many of which are parodies of theme park rides and tropes. It even starts with a killer line.
I'm scared, Dad!
Sweetie, they won't kill you in an amusement park as long as you have a dime left in your pocket.
And to not spoil every moment for you, here are a few of my highlights. The Pirates of the Caribbean homage was funny. Maggie becomes massive and uses us as a dummy pacifier for my American friends. And the smell of baby powder gets shot at you, which still works to this day, so that was very cool to me. Seeing Springfield for the short time we do is always great fun. I try to find some new things each time I ride it. Shout out to the Send Money to Universal Studios sign. The Matt Groening demon is a funny nod to his past. Seeing Mr. Burns and Smithers in the background of a shot is so funny to me, considering the voice actor Harry Shearer doesn't appear at all. As for the vehicle you're sitting in and the experience itself, the Simpsons Ride was surprisingly rough. You get jolted around like a mofo, and they don't care if you've got a bad back or not. Some of the effects don't work anymore. Luckily, the aforementioned baby smell does. The screen, the actual screen itself that the video is being projected onto, looked a bit rough and worse for wear. It for sure needs a revamp to some degree, but I feel the next big refurb this gets is the day it leaves us behind. Which is sad for me. At least until I check out the other Springfields. After that, it's a fine enough experience. And yes, I adore all of the references and nods that Simpsons fans like me will just drink up. But it's an okay screen-based attraction. Lifted up for me thanks to my love of The Simpsons. I wonder if there's anyone else that feels the same about Fast and Furious. I just noticed this on my last read of the script. This would have been produced at the same time as the Simpsons movie as well as the current season of the show. Dear God, that office must have been chaos.
5 seconds to kill somebody. Hello, folks.
What a horrible nightmare!
As we walk out of Springfield, there's a show in a rather large looking theatre named Animal Actors Live on Stage. I've never actually watched it. As a kid, it didn't interest me, and as an adult, I understand how working with animals in movies works since, well, film degree. But I did watch a show online, and it's rather cute. It does exactly what you think it'd do. It shows animals doing tricks and techniques that they use to train animals to work on sets. Funnily, as I wrote this section, I watched a vlog from Universal Studios Florida, and that day, someone was trying to get a stage bird out from a tree as, well, don't work with animals. I'm afraid the next portion is somewhat of a eulogy and a look down memory lane, although the Universal website still shows that this area still is here at the time of recording. Quick update, this now has been confirmed to be a DreamWorks land, with many of the attractions more than likely being rethemes or, very simple, quite easy to produce attractions by the look of it and how fast this has been turned around since this is going to be opening in 2024. I did notice that on some people's vlogs, the Woody Woodpecker Kid Coaster, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, has not been knocked down at all, so that's probably going to be rethemed. But this is a good thing in my opinion, this DreamWorks land, because this theme park, I don't know if I mentioned this or even mentioned it at all, is very teenager and my age orientated, so young adult to adult. And there isn't really much stuff for kids to do outside of a few shows and the Minion attraction, the Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. So with this new DreamWorks land, plus the new Minion attraction, VillainCon, which is like a light gun game that you don't sit on, you actually stand on, and you're on a moving walkway, which is kind of cool. Sadly, it wasn't open at the time of me going there. I think this theme park is becoming more family orientated, which is good, because that means if you say come as a parent with, let's say, a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, the 5-year-old can stay with you and go to the DreamWorks land and do the kiddie rides, while the teenager, the 15-year-old, can go off and do the roller coasters and things that interest them. So overall, this is a good change, and I'm looking forward to coming back one day to check out this land and maybe re-review it in the future. The Woody Woodpecker Kidz Zone has been removed. Ironically, it was closed a week before my trip. You may be asking, who's Woody Woodpecker? Well, go to Port Aventura in Spain. That mofo is everywhere. My memories of this area was that there was a Barney show for very little kids and creepy adults without kids, later rethemed to DreamWorks, a Woody Woodpecker kiddie coaster that I never got to ride. There was a Fievel's Playland, which was a water kids play area. Pretty sure I have a cute photo of one of my brothers sat playing in that area when they were a baby. I'm not showing you that photo because some of you fuckers out there are sick, but it did look kind of fun. And a Curious George Goes to Town area. Now for real, if you have a younger member in your party, this area was pretty fun. It's got a cute facade, a nice entryway with George discovering what a bidet is, and then you run around a cheap but quaint looking funhouse, getting sprayed with water. There was also a section at the end where you could shoot foam balls at each other. It's something you'd find at an indoor kids play area, but with a colourful and pretty good theme. I can't knock it. Shame it's gone. I hope whatever comes next surpasses it. But that's not all. A few things have survived. Some eatery, I think it was a pizza place, is still alive, though it was closed the time I went. SpongeBob Store Pants is still there, an okay themed shop with SpongeBob Bob merch to buy, along with some recreations of iconic things from the show, and a chance to meet some of the underwater crew. And finally, E.T. Adventure. The only attraction from opening day that is still operating, next to a certain show we'll touch on later. And my lord, does it feel like it was from then? The TVs in the queue look like they never got an update, and the footage is still in 4:3. It's themed in a soundstage, and I love that about it. Although it did get refurbishment in 2002, but sadly, walking up to it didn't elicit the joy I wanted, since we had these nasty blue walls keeping us out of Kidz Zone, so you have to awkwardly navigate to the ride. But as I approached the sign, I saw the posters of the film, the Japanese one looking rather cool. I was ready for this. The story is that E.T.'s planet is dying, and we need to go with him back home to help him find his family and save the planet. His planet is 3 million light years away, so we're getting there via bikes. Yeah, I know, movie, but at the speed those kids were going in E.T. on those bikes, they'd be skeletons by the time they got to the planet. Anyways, after Steven and E.T. have a catch-up, we can enter and get a little card. The gimmick is that E.T. is supposed to say your name, which is cool, and I look forward to E.T. for sure saying my name at the end of the ride. Yeah. I really did like the mural of the behind-the-scenes photos in this room. I took a minute to look at them all. I love any behind-the-scenes stuff. But then, wow. The lighting, the smells, yes really, the ambience, walking through these late-night woods is incredible. As is seeing E.T. for the first time in the queue. Then to walk up and see the floating bikes, it really does feel special. I really wish I could tell you why. The bikes themselves were comfy enough, unlike an actual bike seat, and the ride begins with E.T. popping his head out in a funny way to me, warning us of trouble. To be honest, to review the story isn't the right way to review this ride. The government want E.T., we fly to his planet, we save the day. What matters here, I think, are the show scenes themselves, as they are very primitive, but very charming. A bit that stands out to me is the part where you properly take off and start flying in the story of the ride. The music swells, and you are treated to a wide space, full of miniatures and fairy lights dotted around the walls. The way I described it makes it sound like a bit shit, but as a fan of practical effects in movies and entertainment, I adore this section every time. Look at it, so damn cute. There's a section with the planet celebrating E.T.'s arrival, which, although I bet could be used very well in a horror sequence, is very charming and, of course, E.T. says your name at the end, except someone on the ride ahead of us had their flash on, someone came over the intercom to say, "Cut it out or I cut you." And when we got to E.T., he just didn't say my name. I know he can say it. I heard him say it when I was small. But, ooh well. It's old. You will feel its age. And you should 100% ride it when you can. The practical effects are great when done well. And when they're not, it's very cute. The music is one of those scores. A bit like the film scores. When you hear it in context, my lord, it just hits the sweet spot in my heart. Plus, the gift shop has some nice little Easter eggs for people who have seen the film. Be sure to look at the cash register. Oh, and E.T. seems a bit too into the child swap there. I don't know about you lot, but look at him.
Goodbye, Jake, Preston, Eliana, Zendela.
Exiting what remains of this section of the park, we pass the NBC Media Centre, where you can view test screenings and the like, as well as a crepe stand that I heard a lot of good things about, but I passed. What faces you next is a nice wide open space where you can stand and get a good view of any of the parades that are going on that day. You can get a great view like I did back in 2018 with our boy Patrick here. To our right, we have Mel's Diner, which has a classic diner aesthetic inside while serving basic theme park fodder. To the right of the diner, on this awkward as fuck tour of the park, we have Transformers The Ride. After you admire Optimus Prime in all his glory outside of the ride, hopefully you skip the queue and get stuck in, as do you really need to know the plot of a Michael Bay Transformers ride? Really? You do? Well, I don't fucking remember it. But if I had to guess, Megatron wants the Allspark and the... yeah, that. The queue is sterile to fit the theme of the ride building, a military base. Doesn't mean I have to like it though. There are a few cool looking props, but besides that, let's just hope you're in single rider, have express, or there's no line. I rode this 3 times, one of which was totally by myself, how cool, and another was with a massive family. I mention this as there was a little girl next to me who was about to cry as she saw the water on the ride vehicle and got worried that she was going to get wet. I brought her up, as by the end she was smiling ear to ear, proud of the fact that she rode the ride. Congrats, random child in Orlando, Florida, January 2023. Proud of you. The ride itself is actually a character named Evac. Yeah, you ride a Transformer. That's kinda cool, I can't lie. It really adds personality and a bit of life to the ride. Just having people talk to us, the viewer, could have been seen as weird. Heck, we never respond on any of these rides, do we? So, having Evac talk to the Autobots and Decepticons alike throughout the ride is cool. And, spoilers, but I really like this ride. The ride is rough mind. Not the bad kind. I'd argue it's more erratic than jolty, but be sure to hang on. Part of the reason it's so rough is because we are in the midst of a fight between the Autobots and the Decepticons, as they fight for the Allspark, the MacGuffin of the Michael Bay Transformers franchise. The 3D here is pretty good, and fits rather well with moments like a bullet flying towards you. Like Spider-Man Next Door Islands of Adventure, this ride mixes 3D with practical sets and effects to make this ride more immersive. And I must say, the transitions between screens was really well done for the most part, and the practical sets blended with the screens really well, even when I took off my glasses to inspect. Speaking of Spidey, I will say I feel this ride pays a lot less respect to the viewer than Spider-Man. Evac will say everyone's names when they appear, probably to cue the rider in on who that is if they don't know. But I'd argue your general rider isn't going to remember who any of the lesser known characters are anyways after the ride. So just blurting out their names doesn't really help anyone. I don't know, a random point, but one I wanted to make.
It's Devastator. Sideswipe. It's Rockit.
There is no real story to tell, but the action overall is wicked. You watch a war go on around you, and a touch that I really liked was that Evac fights too. Normally in these kinds of rides, you are just running away from the baddies. But here, Evac picks up a gun at one point and takes a mofo out, and even delivers the killing blow to Megatron, using the Allspark. Come on, man. Even if you don't like Transformers, in the heat of the moment, you gotta be at least thinking, fuck yeah, as he takes him out. Plus, Optimus says well done to me and only me, nobody else on the ride, just me because he likes me. And to go out on a high note, look up after the final scene to see a very impressive Megatron looking right down at you, with a hole in his chest. And after you pass through the army-themed gift shop, aka a shed, you also have a chance to meet Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, or Megatron. I've done it once, they look pretty cool in person. Transformers The Ride 3D. I'm sorry, I really like it. It's as a theme park ride as you can get, and it does the job perfectly. Technically, it's pretty great. It fires up all the tee-hee explosions and fighting receptors in my brain to make this a exhilarating experience that I look forward to anytime I get to ride it. Just, again, skip the queue as best as you can. I rode it when the park opened one of the days I was there. I was literally the first person in the ride. Bliss.
Save the planet. Well done, freedom fighters.
Heading back a bit to the Hollywood section of the park, we have the horror makeup show. Although I did not watch it this time in person, I have watched it 3 times in the past, including the current running show on YouTube. We have a very cool waiting area, with basically a tiny museum of horror movie history, which is pretty cool. And the show itself is a half-an-hour presentation, showcasing some of the tricks that horror films used to use, and in some cases still use today, as well as getting some guided narration through some other examples of practical and visual effects in some of Universal's movies. It is rather surface level knowledge to someone like myself, but that makes total sense for a show like this, as it has to cater to all audiences. But if you know your movie knowledge, or at the very least horror movie knowledge, aka you've watched every Cinematic and Monster Madness, then this won't do much for you in terms of information. Saying that, the show has got a good sense of humour, flows well, and overall I do think at the very least it is worth watching on YouTube. It's a fun time, and I kind of regret not rocking up to view the show, but then again, I live in freezing Scotland. I wanted as much time in the sun as possible, so leaving it for half an hour plus just didn't sound fun to me.
Eddie over here looking really good.
As we leave this theatre building, we walk down Hollywood. This place, although may look rather cheap or off-putting to some, is pretty damn well packed with stuff. Yes, we have an attraction we'll get to shortly, but there's a lot more to get busy with down here than meets the eye. In fact, there's a theme I wanted to hammer home throughout this park. Yes, there are sections that feel rather empty, such as the area next to the Jimmy Fallon ride with a very cheap-looking facade. I'm pretty sure the point of this was to house an old show at one point, but most of the time there is a shed load of shops and eateries to walk in. For example, remember like an hour-ish ago when I was talking about the Mummy? Well, that street is bustling with life and stuff to do. Watch any walkthrough and you'll see people coming and going out of every door. It's quite a cool sight. A few examples of shops and other stuff here in this area is the now located tribute store. Shout out to me earlier in the video, where you can go through a heavily themed shop to a variety of subject matter. There's a genuine radio station here that people use to record. Fun fact for any wrestling fans, AEW Dark is shot at Universal Studios, and I did notice on the exitway there was an image of TNA there too. Oh, sorry. And around here, quite commonly, you will meet a character of some kind, be that The Simpsons, Scooby-Doo and the Gang, Hello Kitty, and a shed load more. This street has got a lot going on. That's what I'm trying to say. And said going on also includes the final attraction we will be talking about, the Bourne Stuntacular. So, getting out of the way, watching a video of this ride doesn't do it any favours. I remember watching a preview of it before it opened online, and I thought it looked a bit shit. But, well, small spoiler, it's not shit. What's for sure lackluster though is the queue. It's extremely sterile. The queue before the pre-show is all silver, with the only things of note being a few collages of images from the Bourne movie franchise, and the mini from the first one, I don't know, I've only ever watched the first three as a kid, because they were always on either ITV2 or ITV4. Exact same for Too Fast, Too Furious. I've seen that film so many times just because it was always on. The pre-show is a massive haul. Standing in there did make me miss Terminator 2 3D a fair bit, the previous attraction in this space, but I was hopeful that it would surpass it in at least technology. After a quick catch-up on who Bourne is for newbies or frequent ITV4 viewers in the early 2010s, we are given some naff reason as to why we are watching the show. I googled it, and does it really matter? We are then let into the stage room. So I don't want to spoil much, if anything, so I'll keep this brief. It's a stunt showcase where we watch Bourne go around the world fighting off assailants and dealing with the US government trying to track him down. The main appeal here is the stunts on show and the technology. And yeah, to me this show is great. You're watching a massive screen with actors and practical props in front of it. It really blends in bloody well. And yes, I could tell what was on the screen and what wasn't, because I really feel people who say they couldn't tell the difference are kind of blind. It doesn't detract from the experience in any way. In some ways, it makes it more interesting. The timing the actors and driverless props have to stick to is pinpoint, and everything was on lock the day I saw it. Not a foot out of place. The blocking of the show overall was pretty great too. Yes, if I didn't have my eyes on an actor when they wanted me to, I could see something or someone exiting stage right, but that's fine. Oh, to paraphrase StudioBinder.com, film blocking is about where your actors stand, but also about directing your audience's eyes to what you want them to look at and what you want them to feel. Just for context. The addition of having actors and props rise from the stage like their ruthless aggression era Rey Mysterio helps the pacing and blocking of the show too, as does the lighting. Noticed I haven't talked about the actual content of the show? Well, I have nothing to complain about really, and also I want you to go in surprised. Don't expect sublime storytelling. If you do, that's kind of your problem. But technically and practically, the show is sublime. It's a must-do in my eyes. As I mentioned before, watching a video clip of this online does not do it justice in any way. I do wish there was a way to skip the pre-show for repeat viewings, but as there are a limited amount of shows a day, I can't get that mad. I'll just be sure to bring a game of Connect 4 or something next time while I'm waiting. I am sure there would be someone else in that waiting room as bored as me. And well, we did it. We have discussed every attraction I was able to do on my trip to Universal Studios Florida, as well as some that I didn't. So finally, the rest of the points I wanted to mention that didn't come up already. I haven't mentioned any events such as Halloween Horror Nights or Mardi Gras. See, these events draw crowds, and considering it takes a day of my life to travel to this park, I don't want crowds. On the real, these events I feel are more made to drive in traffic from more regular guests to spend more money at the parks, such as people who live locally or pay for an annual pass. Because when people come, they gotta eat and drink after all, unless you're me and you wait until you leave the park to eat and only drink water. Which, by the way, US water, it tastes like shit, at least in Florida. But there are Coke freestyle machines dotted around the park where the water doesn't taste like a cheap swimming pool. These can be used to refill drink cups you can buy and reuse other times you return to the park. I think it was you pay once and it works for a day, then you pay a small fee to refill other days you're in the park. A pretty great deal in my opinion if you're into the drinks on offer. But at these freestyle machines you can also get your basic old H2O, the thing that gives you life that isn't Monster Energy, free of charge, along with ice. Plus, if you haven't got a bottle or cup on you, go to a place that sells drinks and ask for a cup of water. That should work. It worked for me at Moe's, so for sure it's worth a punt. I also didn't mention what happens when the park closes, at Universal Orlando's Cinematic Celebration. Funnily enough, the show has officially closed as of the day I wrote this section, March 9th, 2023. So, I guess this is a post-mortem. I was on my way out of the park that day, and I thought, why not? Let's check it out. Although it isn't going to be any of Disney's shows, it's fine enough. To quote attractionsmagazine.com, this nighttime entertainment option blended multiple panoramic water screens with pyrotechnics, and more than 120 dancing fountains, and projection mapping to transform the entire waterfront and surrounding buildings. What's quite funny is, I was about to walk away after a few minutes as I found it rather boring, but then Fast and Furious came up, so I had to see it. But what kept me staying after that was the use of projection mapping. It really added something a little extra to sections such as the Transformers and Harry Potter sections. There was also a good few moments of comedy, and a nice big finish. I won't lament its closing, however I would have never watched it again. The only real memory I had was that whoever the sound mixer was, he loved his bass, as at times that was all I could hear of certain tracks. I mentioned a little bit earlier that some stuff is shot at Universal Studios. I was hoping to catch something there like AEW Dark, but sadly, I wasn't so lucky. So, Universal Studios, Florida. It's a strange one. It feels like it has a bit of an identity crisis at times, not exactly knowing what the main theme of the park is really supposed to be. Is it about riding the movies, being a part of the movies? Am I the movie now? With the storytelling in these rides, you're not getting like top tier A24, you're getting serviceable blockbusters, which is rather apt going by the list of franchises we see in the park. Plus, it does feel a little dated in some aspects, but the problem here is, I am comparing it to what is next door, Islands of Adventure. Without totally spoiling a hopeful future video, that park in many ways is better than this park. I'd argue it may be one of the best theme parks in the world, though I need to go to many more before I can make such a bold claim. This park is simply good. I'd argue it's a good theme park. It has a variety of things available for a wide variety of audiences, and I believe that if you come here, you'll have a good time. But then say, did we get a park-to-park ticket? Let's go next door.